So new reporting this morning on evil lunacy. That is how Republican Liz Cheney described new statements from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, evil lunacy. And to be completely honest, Cheney was being polite because Taylor Greene equated mask requirements in the House to the Holocaust.
You know, we can look back in a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star, and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens, so much so that they were put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. And this is exactly the type of abuse that Nancy Pelosi is talking about.
So as we said earlier, this is not only ahistoric, it's abhorrent. It's also apparently allowable under House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who hasn't commented on it and refused to punish Greene for past anti-Semitic statements she made. Wearing a mask compared to the murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others? It's so far beyond the realm of decency, it could only possibly be made worse by comments from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I stand by all of my statements. I said nothing wrong. And I think any rational Jewish person didn't like what happened in Nazi Germany, and any rational Jewish person doesn't like what's happening with overbearing mask mandates.
I assure you, no rational person, regardless of his or her religion, would compare health measures or anything to the Holocaust.
I think it is very fair to say that no rational person would be cool with that, just like no rational person would think it's a good idea for someone to reference Romeo and Juliet while admitting they impregnated a minor while they were legally an adult. Probably not the best way to gain support for your congressional run, but that is exactly what Wyoming State Senator Anthony Bouchard, who is currently running to unseat Liz Cheney in the House, did.
It's a story when I was young, two teenagers, girl gets pregnant. You've heard those stories before. She was a little younger than me, so it's like the Romeo and Juliet story. A lot of pressure to abort a baby. I gotta tell you, I wasn't gonna do it.
So he married that girl when she was 15. They divorced a few years later, and shortly after, she died by suicide. And yet he's still romanticizing being an 18-year-old impregnating a 14-year-old. This kind of crazy is also informing voting reforms, as a number of Republican-led states push for Arizona-style bogus audits of the last election, including Georgia, where a judge last week decided to allow another audit to move forward. All of this to perpetuate the big lie that the election was stolen, despite the mountains of evidence against it.
I want to bring in Joel Rubin, Executive Director of the American Jewish Congress. Joel, thanks so much for joining us. I want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I said earlier in the program, look, I'm Jewish. I'm not at all observant or religious, but that's my heritage. Marjorie Taylor Greene would certainly say that I'm Jewish. And my reaction to her is, how dare she presume to speak for me as a rational person? How dare she, this person who's espoused anti-Semitic theories about Jewish space lasers causing forest fires? How dare she? What was your reaction?
John, you're spot on. Look, this rational Jewish person right here believes it's time for Marjorie Taylor Greene to be expelled from Congress. This is enough. Marjorie Taylor Greene is trafficking in hate speech. She is trivializing the Holocaust. She is conducting dog whistles to the far right to raise money, to raise her political power, to bias our politics into a place of hate. And there's no place for hate in our politics, and this needs to stop right now.
You bring up, I think, what is the crucial point here. Marjorie Taylor Greene at this point, well beyond this point, has made clear exactly who she is and the hateful theories that she espouses. The important question now is, what is going to be done about it? What is Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, going to do about it? He stood in the way of Marjorie Taylor Greene being removed from her committees. So what does he need to do now?
Well, John, Kevin McCarthy has been denying and delaying and obfuscating for far too long, and we're at a point now where it must be stopped. You know, we had a congressman about 2 decades ago, Jim Traficant, kicked out of Congress for corruption. I gladly have Jim Traficant back right now in place of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Kevin McCarthy has been not missing at the station. He is not showing leadership, and he needs to stand up, and he needs to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene. Enough is enough. Our politics don't deserve this. This is not a left-right issue. As you pointed out, there are many members across the aisle who are upset by this. This is deeply disturbing to the American Jewish community. This goes and goes and goes further. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is essentially saying wearing a mask, this, saving lives, is somehow equal to walking millions of innocent civilians to the gas chamber. It's just beyond the pale.
I got to let you run here, but very quickly, what does it tell you that she feels comfortable saying that out loud in this political environment? What does it tell you about her view of the political environment?
You know, John, with the Holocaust, we learned about many different actors, and the key actor was the people who were passive and allowed this kind of hate to go unchecked. And that's what we're learning about right now in our politics, that she sees a profit from it. She's profiting from hate speech. She's raising lots of money off of it. And she's being allowed to do it by people who are passively allowing her to get away with it on her own side of the aisle in particular, and her leadership. And it says that our politics right now doesn't punish those who foment hate. And that needs to stop. We need red lines in our politics.
Joel Rubin, I appreciate you being with us this morning for a
Thanks, John.
rational discussion.